Hello, 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 and welcome to another conversation at the Colors Organization. I am Tony Purnell, the light worker. I am affectionately known as psychotherapist in the Philadelphia community. Today we're having a conversation on generational trauma and how it affects us today, and what we can do to get through this thing so it's not passed down continuously. Today I want to introduce you to our participants, Mr. Terrell Wallace and Mr. Nate Evans. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Terrell.
Hey guys, this is Terrell Wallace. I am the director of photography for the Colors Organization. Also own my own business, filmmaker / photographer, T-Shots Productions, LLC.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here with us
I appreciate
today.
being here. I appreciate it.
All right. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Nate Evans Jr. I'm a devoted husband, national speaker, best-selling author, and podcast host. I tell people all the time that I create experiences for apprehensive individuals to feel worthy when they're waging a war in their mind.
Listen, when I tell you we got some bomb people here sitting with me, and I want to let you get to know them as well. We're going to get deep, we're going to get vulnerable, we're going to get open and honest about our experiences dealing with generational trauma. First of all, when we talk about this idea, this notion of generation trauma, what is your bottom line or the simplest definition of generational trauma? What do you think when you hear that phrase?
For me, the most simple way that I can explain out is one word: complacency. For me, somewhere along the lineage, something happened, someone was complacent, and they had an opportunity to break those strongholds and those different things that continued the trauma and then brought it down to them. But they decided to be complacent, and then it continued to pass down from generation to generation. I believe we all have a moment where it's like, okay, I can either make a change or I can just kind of roll with the punches. And a lot of times they sit in a discomfort and just roll with the punches. And unfortunately, the lineage continues to be impacted.
Okay. We talk about complacency. We talk about the lineage being impacted. So what is your simplest definition?
I think my simplest definition of generational trauma would be a trait, per se, that hasn't been changed or directed within a certain individual. And because of younger individuals in the family, they see that and repeat the same process. And because of that, you got traumatic experiences and things that they're not supposed to see that kind of restrict or not. I wouldn't say, sometimes it can be a strict restriction, but it's also something that kind of, something that they kind of just grow off of, and they continuously just repeat year after year after year after year, until someone just says, we gotta stop.
Enough is enough.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to stop. And that's the complacency piece that you were talking about earlier. As a clinician, when I think about generational trauma, so I'm in a mindset of assessing what is going on psychologically in terms with a person. And so when we make it a generational thing, how that's being passed on to generations. I'm dealing with my personal trauma. Now, how is my personal trauma affecting us as a community? And as we're talking about generational trauma, I can also say in the Black community, we're talking about generational curses.
Right.
How does that thing become traumatic experience due to a cursed experience? We're talking about the things that's passed down and continue to be passed down. Talk about just the Black community. Why is it generational curse? Where did that curse piece come from when we talk about the Black piece?
Wow.
I think, man, that's really loaded.
That's a real good question.
Just thinking about that. No, that's good.
That's a fine question. That's a great question.
Think about the curse part.
Exactly.
I think that we hold so tight to this is a generational curse because we use that as a scapegoat to not make change.
We use that as a scapegoat to not make change.
Yeah, so it's like, if this is a generational curse, it's, oh man, I got the generational curse, man. It was passed down to me. And that right there, you give away your responsibility, your power to be like, yo, it was a curse, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of it being something that you can actually change, you feel powerless.
Exactly.
Because it's a curse on the family, on the lineage, on the community.
Yeah.
So again, nobody has to step up and be responsible to actually make the change.
Right.
So it's like I said, it's an easy scapegoat.
Okay.
That's a good question, Tony. That's a real good question.
We're going to get deep. We're going to get open, honest, and vulnerable here. You're talking about that whole accountability piece.
Yeah.
If I say year after year, generation after generation, I'm dealing with this thing that has plagued us, that has cursed us, when does the curse stop? who does it stop with?
Well,
Is it my responsibility, my accountability?
There we go. Right
I think it's, as a community of Black people, it's everybody's responsibility. We see, I think just in general, as human beings, as individuals, if we see something that's a limitation, there needs to be something that kind of enacts in our minds to like, yo, we got to do something about this.
Exactly.
You know, so that we don't transfer that energy to the next generation. I have to agree with what you said, Nate, that it is a scapegoat. We kind of accept this stigma from the previous generation or from other people that are surrounded around us to just accept what's there instead of like, yo, it's time to step up. This is something that's not okay. It's limiting what we can do, what we're able to do, the abilities that we have to change. And I feel like certain people just accept that as the end all be all. And that's, you know, I don't agree with that at all.
My acceptance, my piece, playing my part. And so if we're talking about a Black experience or a community experience, when we look at it also, we can talk about generational trauma being something that a community experienced that was oppression or a community that experienced that was genocide.
Right.
So we talk about
Absolutely.
trauma on multiple different levels. We talk about the people who experienced the Holocaust, people who experienced the transatlantic slave. You know, we everybody in some way, I can say, maybe have experienced some type of trauma. But when it becomes
For sure.
generational,
Yeah.
that's where the issue that we have to
Yeah.
deal with today.
Yeah.
I agree.
Generational.
Yeah.
What is my part in ending the curse or ending the trauma?
Yeah.
Right.
And realizing that you have a part to play in it. It's like you weren't born
there
on
we go.
accident. It's like, nah, you have a purpose.
There we go.
But a lot of times, again, we just pass it on because I don't want to bear the responsibility. I don't want to drop the ball. So it's like, this is uncomfortable, what's happening, the things that I'm going through, the anxieties, the stressors. But we, you know, you grow up in a home where it's hush hush. We don't talk
Keep it
about
quiet.
nothing. We keep it quiet.
Yeah.
But keeping it quiet has plagued us, has harmed us, has killed us.
There we go. That's that plague.
Right.
That's that curse. Once I'm gonna just say this. I'm gonna be upfront and honest. We have to remove ourselves from the things that had kept us in bondage.
Yeah.
We have to continue to do practices that remove us from keeping us in bondage. That whole "this is my house" thing. What happens in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
Things. That's another curse. That's another bondage moment.
Yeah.
I don't want to continue being in a community that's going to continue to be oppressed. I have to do my part.
Yeah. That's
But
right.
I'm going to assume that you're Black. I'm going to assume that you're Black.
Right.
But does that mean we're all part of the Black experience? Does that mean we all identify with the Black experience? I can say I'm Black, but I don't even identify with what you are going through. I'm not oppressed.
Yeah.
I don't have no generational trauma. So why would I think that's my responsibility?
Wow.
That's deep too, because
Yeah,
like I
that's
said,
I live
know.
a good life.
Right. For me, I remember.
now what?
I remember, and this was me actually walking through therapy, like kind of pointing some stuff out. I remember being younger, and those words would like pass down, like, "Oh, this is a generational curse," and this, so I'm hearing it. At a young, I didn't know what it was prior or what was happening, but it was like, "Hey, you got this too, because you're a part of this family." It's like, "Oh snap! Wait a
Ooh.
minute."
What happened with that?
Wait a minute. Y'all ain't give me no good stuff. Like, this is what y'all gave. It's like,
Right.
oh well, we all kind of had it. It's like being like, oh well, you know, your grandpa's an alcoholic, so you know, it runs in
come
our
on.
family. I'm like,
Yeah, come
time
on.
out, fam. You don't.
Right.
It don't work that way.
It doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody has to take that responsibility. But again, at a young age, it was planted. And so many of us, I know myself as well, where it's like, you know, generational curses. It was never like a conversation about, oh, we focus on generational healing, on abundance. I've never even heard
I
those
love it.
words until so
I
much
love
later
it.
on in life. It was like, when I first heard, I'm like, what y'all talking about?
Right.
It's a healing part to
It's
it?
a
She's
healing
like,
part.
"Word?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. You know what I mean? It was always the negative connotations and kind of like scraping to get by and mediocrity. And that's what the environment cultivated.
Yes,
And it's not
man.
until, my boy always says this, he said the pain of staying the same has to be greater than the pain of change. And then you'll actually change.
Wait,
So for me, I hit that
repeat
point
that. The pain
of staying the same.
has to be greater
than the pain of change.
Yeah.
So that was me when I first started going to therapy. It was like, I needed something to change. And at first I'm like apprehensive because I'm like, I don't know about therapy. We talk about, you know, they like, oh, that's where the crazy
Exactly.
people go. And then you find out like, man, I should have been going.
Right.
Like on the regular, like this
Yeah.
is like maintenance. I need to be going all the time to get these checkups and to check in and do what I need to do. But growing up, it was stigmatized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Until I got to a point where it's like, yo, the pain hurts too much. I don't even know what it looks like over there, but I'm gonna just go see anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that was.
I think
Shut
one of the
thoughts.
biggest things that I started realizing as a creative is that we put so much pressure, especially as a creative trying to do it as a career and, you know, actually financially trying to survive off of it. We lose and lack the abilities of the things that we should be doing personally, like as passion, to kind of fulfill that void sometimes. Because we just so focused on, let's just work and do this. You know, we got clients, we got so much happening throughout the days and the weeks and the months and the years that we forget about the things that kind of feed us to give us that, you know, that happiness.
Absolutely.
The happiness about it, like the whole purpose behind why we do it. What's the reasoning for why you create?
Exactly.
You know, and we go so far without thinking about, we got to bring it back to ourselves again.
Absolutely.
So that we can produce more. Because how can I produce for you if I'm empty?
So when we talk about the notion of carrying certain things from our parents or our grandparents or great grandparents, we don't talk about carrying, like you said, the good stuff. Why we had to carry things that are heavy. Sometimes it's necessary to release the weight. Sometimes it's necessary. I cannot literally hold on to anything or have life give me something greater when I'm holding on to the past. I cannot literally do that. I'm holding on to this. Life is trying to put something in my hand, but I don't want to open it up. And so when you talked about that, Nate, about the idea of doing things that I am solely accountable for myself, about breaking that trauma, breaking the curse, and you said starting with therapy, what are some other things that you feel like you're breaking cycles to get over this generational curse, to get over this traumatic events that we're facing?
So I'm going to get a little personal.
Please.
So I come from a Caribbean background, and a lot of what they kind of think is, hey, go to school, get a job as a lawyer, doctor, something in a corporate profession that you can make some really good money. I was an individual, I didn't do that. I didn't do the corporate route. I did the route of doing what I wanted to do and being an entrepreneur. My parents didn't sit right with that. They didn't like that. They weren't supportive of it. And so there was like a certain moment where I had to make a decision to either, you know, in everything I respect them because they're my parents, right? And they've taught me to be the person I am today.
Absolutely.
But there was another aspect of that where I was actually also figuring out who I am as an individual. And when I started to come into contact with that, that's when I broke that curse, that generational curse of following, let's go to school and get a regular job like everybody else.
That just gave me chills.
You know?
Wow.
I decided to make that decision where I wanted to do this for me, for my peace, for my happiness, and set an example for the next generation, for my kids, for my siblings, to see that, hey, their brother is taking, he's going out on his own, he's taking a big leap, not necessarily knowing what it is that he's doing, but he's still sure in the decisions that he's making. And because of that, God has been able to provide so much.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? He's been able to provide so much. And the craziest thing is the tables turn. Now my parents see what I'm doing. They're like, he's involved in this. He's going out here. He's traveling here. He has contacts here.
That's awesome.
And so now they're like, well, maybe it is possible that he can do this now. We're more supportive of it. We're proud of you. You're doing the things you want. But I feel like parents don't fully get that until they see the end result of what happened.
See, I have a problem with that.
Do it, like when it happens
I
for
have
you.
a significant problem with that because why do you have to see in order to manifest where I want to be? Like, you have to have a vision, but like, you are the only one who's supposed to really invest in your own vision.
Yeah.
If you didn't have the support of your family, if you didn't have the support of the people from the outside, would you still be here?
Yes. That is because I've built a mindset, and this goes back into like college when I was in school. I built a mindset to uphold a certain standard for me, you know?
That's good.
For me, not for nobody else. Like for myself. No matter what my dad or mom has to say, my brother or sister or friends, I build a standard for myself. Like Terrell won't be where he is until he accepts this for him.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? Like
And
once
that's that accountability piece that you were talking
right,
about earlier.
you know?
It's my responsibility to be where I need to be in my life. And so
Right.
I don't carry the same heaviness.
Yeah.
I don't carry the
Right,
same
right.
trauma.
Yeah, I don't.
Because when you really look at it, that's your personal thing that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And as a result, now my family benefits
Yeah. Right.
from my personal decision. Now my community benefits from my personal decision.
Yeah.
And I love the way that you said, it's my choice. And it's not, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the big decisions and choices that have brought you here.
Right.
It's every little choice, every little decision that you have made that has
Good.
impacted where you're sitting.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about change needs to be made. You are exactly where you want to be.
Yeah.
Because of your choices, your decisions.
That's right.
I know, I'm a
That's
product of my
good.
environment.
That is so
No,
good.
no.
Extreme ownership.
Yeah.
It's extreme ownership. So if I'm not where I'm not supposed to be, I need to blame me and me only.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
That
right.
scapegoat stuff. Oh, I was about to cuss. That scapegoat stuff you talking about. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little passionate.
You're good. You're
That
fine.
scapegoat thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want to remain in unhealed spaces.
Ooh.
Sure.
Oh my goodness.
I take ownership of it. Now I have a responsibility to change it.
Yeah, and I don't want that.
And I don't want that.
And that's
I'm not
right.
going to take ownership because I don't want to change. Once I say, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, now I have a responsibility.
Yeah.
Why won't people
change
just
it.
say that? I don't want to change.
Because they're
I'd
not
rather you
ready.
just say that.
They
I'd
feel
rather just
pressured.
receive.
They feel pressured by the outside sources like their friends and
Right,
family
right.
to make
I'd
them
rather just
feel.
keep it honest with me. Like, I don't want to change.
It's also vulnerability as well.
Yeah.
They don't like being vulnerable. Oh, I'm really emitting something from myself and showing my emotions now to everybody for them to see. So now I feel like
It's
I can't.
easier for
you
people
know?
to remain in their mess.
Right.
It's easier for people to remain in their sickness. It's easier for people to remain in their illness. Like I said before, I say I want to change, I have an obligation to move forward with that change because it's uncomfortable. And like I said, let's say you said, I want to change, and my family sees something, I'm changing, but sometimes they're not going to always be on board because you're emitting something that is foreign to them.
Right.
And so they're not going to be on board with your change because you're emitting something that they're not used to.
Right.
And so you're going to have pushback.
Oh,
You're going to
for sure.
have things that are like, why are you doing that? You're going to just continue with this whole generational curse, this whole generation trauma.
Right.
You're going to always get pushback, but your responsibility is yours
Yeah.
and yours alone.
And can I say something to that?
Yeah.
Because I have a very similar just scenario as to yours, where it was like what I wanted to do wasn't supported. You know what I mean? I would say my dad didn't really understand like the dynamic of what I was trying to do as a speaker and
Yeah.
author and things like that. And it wasn't until I heard this once from one of my mentors. He said, the only way that their mind will change is if you change their life. You know what I mean? And you literally have to go against the grain. It's like, I remember my dad giving me applications for different jobs and firefighters, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. We need
Right.
those individuals.
Right.
I was like, this ain't for me. Like, I know what I'm doing. I'm focused on that. And I had to continuously go against the grain. And in my mind, while the support wasn't up front, it was more so like, I know on the back end, this is going to not just benefit me, but him also.
Yeah, it will.
So
for sure.
I had to continue to fight against it. And then there was a scenario where one of my alma maters brought me back to speak, and they honored me, and the dean was there. And I was like, hey, Dad, come with me to this award joint. So he came, they ride him around in golf carts, they giving him free merch.
See, there we go.
They giving him the presidential treatment. He's like, what is going on here? I said, yeah, because of the stuff that I do. And he was able to get exposed. Like the dean walked up to him like, hey, Mr. Evans, da-da-da. You know, this is your son. He's incredible. I just want to say we love having him here. He was just blown away by the environment of. I did the same thing with my mom at a very similar event where it's like I have to expose y'all to some things because I can't change your mind until I change your life.
Come on, exposure promotes change.
That's right.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, with that being said, what are some things that you refuse to pass down to future generations? What has been passed down to you that you absolutely refuse to pass down to future generations?
I got those in the
That's
bag.
wow.
Just give me a couple.
Yeah, I know for me, one of the main ones is scarcity and fear. Scarcity and fear, and scarcity, the big thing with scarcity was like money, financial. So anytime money conversations came up, we put them to the side, bills came, stress. There was never an abundance of anything. It was like money was this on this pedestal, and it's like, nah, it's just a resource and a tool. You know what I mean? I never heard the words investment. Any of these things growing up, it was just like, this this costs this much. Like the energy behind certain things, it was like, oh man, it made me nervous about, earning money and things. So when I would get it, it'd be gone. And then with the fear thing, it was crazy. My therapist said to me, she was like, success is a trigger for you. And I remember her first saying that, I was like, wait, what? Like, this don't make sense.
No, I want success.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I want success. Like, I'm trying to get it popping. And she was like, no. Because every time you reach a new level or something great happens, you instantly get anxious and think it's going to be taken away.
There we go. Once again, the idea and the notion of trauma. Now, I internalize it. I can't have nice things. I can't be used to having nice things because somebody's going to take it away.
It's going to be gone.
That was ingrained in your DNA way before you were even born.
Yeah.
We talk about your language was taken away. We talk about your ceremonies were taken away. We talk about who you are as a culture when we were colonized here. And so naturally and ingrained, I'm always going to have that thought process. Pass down, pass down, pass down.
Yeah.
Generational trauma. What about you?
Control. Control has been a big thing in my family. And that just stems right back to what I was saying earlier about, following a certain path that they wanted me to follow and then kind of taking a different one. A lot of the times they do that out of fear.
Yeah.
They don't know what it is that I'm doing. They don't see the end result of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So they control, Terrell, you need to do this. This is right for you here. You can't go over there. You don't know what that looks like, so stay away from it. So that kind of stems into fear as well.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, control. That's something that I refuse to pass down to the next generation, to my kids. I'm going to allow them to be free.
Amen.
Allow them to understand what freedom looks like, what it feels like, what it looks like to attain it, to what it looks like to just be themselves. Be themselves and be happy in who they are in their life,
and own that and be happy in your ownership.
Exactly. A lot of the times, unfortunately, and the only reason why this happens is because my parents didn't get the opportunities that I had now from where they're from. They grew up in the 60s. It was a different time period back then, especially in Jamaica. It was a totally different time period. So growing up now and where we're at, we see the world revolutionized. A lot has been changed throughout. Sexuality, careers, you know what I'm saying? Politics. Just things have changed in a general aspect of life. So, and it's going to continue to just be different as more kids are being born. So we have to learn how to adapt to that, right? Allow our children to grow. Allow them to learn, to take ownership in who they are. So that's what I refuse to pass down control. I'm going to guide. Guidance is where it's more of a learning experience. It's more of a learning experience. You guide instead of controlling.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have aspects and opinions about certain things. Maybe it might not always be exactly factual, but you give as much guidance as you can. You give as much guidance as you can.
That's great.
I always ask people, so part of what I do substance abuse. I'm a director of a substance abuse agency. And I ask people, I said, what's the biggest drug in our society? Oh, sugar. I said, okay, well, give me another. Nicotine. I said, keep going. Oh, opiates, that's definitely the biggest drug in our society today. I said, you're all wrong. Every last one of y'all. What do you mean? What do you mean? The biggest drug our society is facing is opiates. I said, no, the biggest drug our society is facing is control. The idea of control. If I'm not in control, my world is in chaos. Look who was running the country. Who was in control. You had the idea of having control, being in control, maintaining that control. Even our parents want some level of control over us and exerting that control. That is the biggest drug plaguing our society.
Yeah.
It is.
It is.
That's really good, actually. Because I'm thinking about when they lose control, you get the situation where they don't support.
You see what happened?
All the other attributes start to stem from it. Fear.
Yeah. Exactly.
No support. They start to try to limit certain things from it.
Think about it. When you really think about that thing, control is the biggest drug affecting our society.
That's really good.
Something that I refuse to pass down to future generations is
likewise.
this idea of mediocrity. I don't care whatever I do,
Bar.
whatever space I'm in, I'm always going to be at a level that is top tier. I'm going to always bring my best, and anybody who's connected to me, I'm going to have you strive for the excellence.
Yeah.
People always say, hey, Tony, what's your brand? Your brand is just being a light. No, my brand is being excellence. Everything I do with a spirit of excellence, no mediocrity. Whatever you do, do your best. Do your best. And so you can't even judge you if you do your best. You can't even judge you. I brought my best to the table, truly my best.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pass down mediocrity in any space that I go in.
That's so good.
In any space.
So good.
So when we're coming to the end of our discussion, I want to tell me your goals and your aspirations for just future generations.
Yeah, for me, and this is a lofty one. I would love for future generations to be in a position where they don't need healing.
They want to put me out of work, y'all.
My wife works as a drug counselor too, so I'm just like,
They want to put me out of work.
so
I want to be in a
good.
position, say that again, where people don't need.
yeah, where they don't need healing.
That's a
You know what I
that's a
mean?
beautiful space to be in.
It's lofty, but it's like, man, if I can put you in a position to where my future children and their children is like, oh, we need some guidance for sure.
Yeah.
We're gonna make
Absolutely.
some mistakes, some stuff
Yeah.
gonna happen, people gonna die. But the deep healing work that I have to go through,
Yeah.
it's like, yo, man, this joint is something else. And it's a lot of work. And it's like, man, what if we can avoid that? What if there's a way around that by truly opening up this window, this door of love and, excellence? And we've literally cultivating these things over generations. It's like we
Yeah.
get to a point where it's like, yo, we living, we in abundance.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's where my mind goes.
How about you?
I think what I would like for the next upcoming generation, what I would like for them to know is how to learn. A lot of families, they're put in positions where they can't learn or they feel like they can't teach. So
Lord.
The pandemic right there.
Oh, wow.
I think there needs to be, I would love to see in the future a space where families can just learn amongst each other. Just learn and love amongst each other. There will be just so much, and that goes, it just plays right back into what you just said. They don't see something that inhibits them from like healing.
Yeah.
They heal and they're learning. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I learned a lot. I did learn a lot within my family, but there were certain aspects of that where I didn't learn enough.
Yeah.
And I wasn't prepared for adulthood in certain ways.
That's so true. A
You
lot
know what
of
I'm
people's
saying?
learning doesn't pass high
Preparedness.
school.
It don't. It's
Like
just
after high
stops.
school, I'm done learning.
Prepared.
But
Anything.
there's another part to it.
Amen.
When you're an adult,
My God.
that life, it humbles you. It humbles you.
it
It
has
wakes
to.
you up.
It has to.
And you gotta sometimes you gotta go with the punches. You
Right.
gotta go with the punches, and you just gotta learn how to adapt. And I think that goes right back from earlier. You gotta want to make a change for yourself now, so that therefore that generation can be prepared.
That's good.
When we talk about that accountability piece, that's a buzzword today. The accountability. I had to do it for me first.
Yeah.
And as a result, I have the benefit of my community.
Yeah.
My community will benefit from my part that I'm doing. This has been such a pleasure having this
been dope.
conversation with you guys.
I
Did you
loved
guys
it.
enjoy this conversation?
I did.
Yeah,
I loved
yeah.
it. I loved the whole.
This was a good
the
one,
whole
right?
conversation.
For sure.
It was great.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another conversation at the Colors Organization. I am your psychotherapist, Philly's favorite therapist, Mr. Tony Purnell. I am your light worker. I just want to shine just a little bit more light on our community. And thank you to our guests, Mr. Nate Evans and Mr. Terrell Wallace. Listen, like, follow, subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to Twitter, and go to our Instagram. We hope to see you soon for another conversation at the Colors Organization. World peace.
Peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Make sure to give a thumbs up, and if you like what you see, subscribe for more content.